farming. It's a completely optional task, but one that can bring you great riches in the form of amazing healing sources and excellent ingredients. But it's also, as I said before, completely optional. Well, today I decided to turn this optional mechanic into a challenge. Today we will be seeing if I can go from a farming noob who relies on simple potato-tomato combos to a master of farming who can create any giant they want to in just one in-game year. But how, you may be wondering? Well, here's how this challenge is going to work. I'm going to have to make one of every giant crop. That's 14 different crops with different needs and seasonal preferences. But that's a little too easy, so I decided to tack on a few extra challenges. I also would need to amass a total of 100 giant crops, and upon my first harvest, I am restricted to only eating raw or cooked crops that I have grown. This can include their seeds since technically I grew them. Oh yeah, and I have to complete this all within 1 year. I'll be honest, going into this challenge I thought it was going to be a piece of cake, but oh man was I wrong. With all the details out of the way, let's create our brand new default world and jump into day 1 to see if I can truly master the art of farming within the world of Don't Starve Together. Day 1 started with me picking Wilson because, yeah. And then we went ahead and started absolutely vacuuming up resources in true Don't Starve fashion. But wait, why am I collecting these juicy berries and carrots? I thought I wasn't allowed to eat anything I didn't grow. Well, yeah, after my first harvest. Before the first harvest, we would be on a forageable only diet. But don't worry, we still won't be using a crockpot at all. I also got incredibly lucky by it being a juicy berry world. You see, juicy berries rot very fast. Rot is a source of compost, which is one of the many important nutrients for farming, but we will go over that later. We end day 1 surprisingly rich, and my hopes for this challenge could never be higher. Day 2 was where we made our pockets even deeper. We kept vacuuming up every resource in a 5-mile radius, and we also decided to hammer some pig houses down for some easy pigskin, boards, and cut stone, all of which would be valuable resources later down the line. After that, it was time to finally hunt for a base spot. And you see, I had a plan that would actually turn out to be a waste of time and a massive downfall later on. But a plan nonetheless. We needed to find ourselves some catcoons. Why? Well, they can be traded with using simple resources like grass and twigs, and in return they can give you a plethora of items. But the most important thing would be the fact that they can drop random seeds. It's slightly rare, but it was honestly a good way to stock up on some otherwise rare seeds. Or so I thought. Luckily for me, I managed to find the deciduous biome before the end of day 2, and we spent the night checking if it was the dreaded fake deciduous or the glorious and almighty true deciduous that housed our feline friends. Luckily, we stumbled upon the Pig King, which meant this is the right spot, so we plopped down a science machine next to a road and officially claimed this spot as the future Polarlotus farmland. Day 3 started with us chowing down on some freshly foraged carrots. Remember, this is allowed since this is before our first harvest. But after that, it's complete diet restriction going forward. Next up is progress time. We set up an alchemy engine, and then finally get our first farm plot set up using our freshly crafted digamajig. We also make ourselves 2 other farming staples, the golden garden hoe for that sweet durability, and a watering can, both of which are essential for us to start our farming empire. But first, let's talk about our goals for this autumn while we set up our first plot. So farming in Don't Starve Together is surprisingly complex, like more complex than a literal game about farming. You have to deal with nutrients, moisture level, weeds, seasonal preferences, overcrowding, and family bonuses. Each of these things will either add stress points to a plant every stage, or skip the stress if the environment is favorable. If a plant only accumulates 1 or less stress points, it will become a giant. This is what our goal is, for every single crop type in the game. Any more stress and it ends up being a pathetic little baby crop, which is of course, pretty unepic. The absolute biggest issue with this challenge is nutrients and seasonal preference. You see, unless you want to fertilize your crops after every growth stage, you must become a mathematical genius to understand companion planting. Luckily for you guys, guides are available on how to make proper and effective companion plants for almost every single crop. However, I was going into this challenge with practically zero experience. I knew how to make giant potatoes and tomatoes, the rest would have to be figured out all on my own, which would lead to some goofy and avoidable moments down the line. I did of course allow myself to see nutrient values during the challenge because otherwise it would have just been absolutely awful. But yeah, if you see some questionable crop combos, just know it's because I was learning, which was part of this whole challenge. And then there's the seasonal issue. You see, each plant has a seasonal favorite. This is highlighted in green. And this is very important because we can only get giant crops in their favorite season, as the stress from growing out of season is too much for a giant crop. Wow, this already seems like a lot to have to deal with, right? Well, there's also the issue of the fact that all the seeds we have right now are random seeds, and we have no clue what they will grow into, which means our very first farm will be sort of a junk farm where our main goal isn't to obtain giants, but rather seeds to make proper crop rotations. This is where cat-coon trading comes into play. The seeds they can drop are not random and are instead one of the 14 seeds of the crops that you can grow. Today we are gifted some potato, onion, and corn seeds. Not much, and not enough for a giant since we would need 4 seeds for the family bonus, which I will go over later, but it was absolutely a decent start to the farm and a decent end to the day. He even followed us back to our farm and decided to become our pet cat-coon, who I will name Pebble for the remainder of this video. And Pebble is a bit of a mischievous kitty cat, but we love him because he's absolutely adorable. I decide to trade a few more items with Pebble and am rewarded with a potato seed for my efforts. Okay, now day 3 is over. Day 4 starts with us trying to trade with Pebbles, but this goofy little furball just could not stop trying to play with everything in sight. And I gotta hand it to Clay, they really nailed the cat AI here. As a proud cat dad, I can say that this is painfully lore accurate. We do eventually manage to get some more fancy seeds, but it does cost us, well, the entire daytime segment. However, our farm had finally started to show some progress. Now, a pro farmer would be able to tell what each of these crops was, but me, being the farming noob I was, only could recognize the corn and the tomato plant. The rest were honest mysteries to me. Now that we had a proper junk farm up and running, I thought it would be a great time to set up a giant plot. We wouldn't be able to utilize it fully yet, but once we managed to secure a good amount of seeds, we could really start getting to work. Autumn is surprisingly a good season for growing. Almost every single plant likes this season except for dragon fruit, pomegranate, asparagus, durian, and watermelon, so we had a lot of work to do if we wanted to be as efficient as possible. My first goal would be to focus on tomatoes and potatoes since they are one of the best combos in the game and will basically keep each other fed as long as they are happy. There was always the choice of what I like to call brute forcing my way to make a giant, or simply fertilizing a group of 4 myself, which I do use during this challenge, but of course this isn't that efficient in the long run since it does cost resources. We end the day by heading down into the caves to collect some light bulbs. Why? Well, you will see very soon. Day 5 starts where we left off in the caves. Our main goal was still gathering as many light bulbs as possible, and that's what we spent a majority of the day doing. We head back up with 35 light bulbs to our name and are chased by hungry basilisks on our way back home. Once we arrive home, wow, look at these beautiful plants. Past me still had no real clue what I was looking at, but this was very good for us. In the night, we make ourselves a football helmet for protection and a spear. Crucial items for any Don't Starve playthrough. Day 6 starts with us giving our plants a little drink before heading out to fight some spiders. Our goal was to get 4 monster meat. Now, those of you who are veterans of either version of Don't Starve probably know what I'm about to do. But if you aren't sure, then sit back and get ready because I'm about to show you
the Poop Factory!
And that was pretty much what this day was spent doing. Hey, for a farming challenge, manure is actually pretty darn useful, and will earn us some giants later on. Day 7 was finally the day our diet restriction would begin. You see, our plants have finally reached maturity, and we had some fresh eggplant, potato, corn, and pumpkin ripe and waiting to be harvested. But once I did that, there would be no going back. From there on out, it's only eating crops and seeds. So I thought smart. I filled up as much as I could on juicy berries and used some green caps to fill my sanity. Speaking of sanity, that was almost guaranteed to become a real issue throughout this challenge. You see, I can't use a crock pot, which means the only crop that will provide me sanity is the watermelon, which won't grow properly until spring. So until spring, we will be stuck picking flowers for sanity, which adds another interesting layer of challenge to this, well, challenge. Despite this fear, we harvest our first crop, And that means the challenge has officially begun. With our new diet restriction officially in place, we now had to act carefully. Farming would now be the only way to sustain ourselves. So we spend the night exploring. Yeah, I don't know either, but hey, we did find beefalo who are a source of poop, so win, I guess? Day 8 started with us in the wilderness collecting more much needed resources before heading back to do some weeding and tending to our small junk farm, which actually bore more fruit. At this point, we had 3 tomato seeds and 6 potato seeds. We would need just 1 more tomato seed and we can create not only 8 whole giants to add to our goal of 100, but cross off giant tomato and potato from the list. I decided to prepare by making another patch of farm because not only was I going to attempt to create a large potato and tomato, but my Ohioan instincts were kicking in and yearning for a certain crop. Unfortunately, nothing could get done without water, of which we had none. So we spent the night heading to a pond to fill up our crying can. After filling our can and heading home, it was day 9. Almost halfway done with autumn and not a single giant. This is, for lack of a better word, quite crap. Either way, I had big plans today because I absolutely needed to start manufacturing some giants. If we got none on our first autumn, I may as well crown myself the king of not farming, which isn't something I really want to do. So what bright idea do I get? We're gonna grow some corn, baby, woo! The method I'm going to be using for this is my tried and true brute force method. You see, corn only needs 1 nutrient, compost, which we have a ton of. So I think you can see how this is going to work. But that's not all we did. We also managed to get that final tomato seed we needed from our junk garden, and that means we are now set and on our way to getting some giants, and crossing 3 of the 14 giants off of our list. As long as I don't neglect them on accident, that would totally never happen, right? After this, I choose to neglect my plants for my own selfish gain. We break some pig houses and use those freshly farmed boards and some grass to craft us up some scale-o-matics. This would allow us to show off our giants that we obtain, and no, I'm not going to make 100 of these. That would be ridiculous, and honestly, getting the boards alone within a year would be a challenge for any non-Woody or Maxwell player, and maybe were it now with the new update. But still, no. Our goal would be to make 14 of these to show our progress on the main challenge, which is obtain 1 of every single giant. So far, we had 3 set up, ready for the plants that were hopefully very happy boys. After that, we tended to our junk farm with the most tender of care into the night. Day 10 was here, officially the halfway point of autumn. Time was crunching pretty hard here, and I really didn't want to mess up my chances of getting giants, so we spent the day tending to the farms, making new friends, trading a little bit with and playing with our farm cat Pebble, and just overall having a very great and productive, but boring day. Day 11 was here and our giant fields were looking very promising. This much progress in this little time was actually quite the feat. However, our brain was not feeling that great. Like I mentioned before, sanity is absolutely going to be an issue during this challenge because the one food that can even put a dent in it can only reasonably be grown in spring and summer. A trip to our local flower field works as a temporary solution though. With that dealt with, we spent some time gathering resources before finally coming home to our amazing farm, where we harvested a few more plants from our junk farm. But tonight was no ordinary night. Tonight was going to be a full moon night, and we were going to take full advantage of that by grabbing our pal Glommer. You see, Glommer themselves aren't what interests us. It's their goop. Goop is actually a pretty decent fertilizer, providing 8 of all 3 nutrients, growth formula being the best part here. Why? Well, growth formula is just an absolute pain to get, and I'll go over that when the time comes, don't you worry. We end the day by hiding Glommer from Pebbles the Destroyer, yes, catcoons are hostile to Glommer, and hammering some awoken pigheads for some easy nightmare fuel that we will never, ever use on this run. Day 12 was amazing. Let me just show you why. We should get some giants today. We got giants. We got giant corn. We got giant corn. We got giant corn. Yeah, we got giant corn. This is my giant corn song, guys. I'm so happy right now. All 5 of those turned into giants. I am the happiest boy alive. As an Ohio native, dude, this is amazing. We've already gotten our first giant, day 12. Not exactly a speed run, but oh, what a big boy. Oh, I'm so happy. There's our giant potatoes. Yes, dude. You can't make this up. All right, that's 2 giants, day 12. 3 giants, day 12. Yes. That's right. Not only did we now officially have a giant corn, potato, and tomato, we also got a total of 13 giants. An amazing start to our 100 giant goal. We spend the rest of the day supersizing our potato and tomato farm in the hopes that these 2 miracle crops would carry us to victory. Of course, we can only reliably use this method in autumn and spring because winters make tomatoes invalid and summer makes potatoes invalid, so unfortunately my tried and true wouldn't be able to carry us that hard. Either way, today was a massive W and gave me much needed hope to continue this challenge. The looming question on day 13 was, what was next? There's an absolute myriad of crops that enjoy autumn, but we were very, and I mean very rapidly nearing the end of it. The junk farm unfortunately didn't provide any answers, but it did give us a watermelon, and you know how much I love those. Either way, stumped but not wanting to be inactive, I decided to take out some local knights to make some fridges. This should hopefully not only help keep our limited food and seeds cold, but also with our atrocious inventory management. The night was spent telling our plants what good boys they were and promising them treats if they grew big, and promising to totally not smash them into pieces with a hammer, which we lied. Day 14 was spent adding more potatoes and tomatoes to the giant factory and tending to the junk farm. That's when I noticed a durian. Well, future me knows that's a durian. The me you're watching on the screen is dumber than a box of doy-doys. Thankfully, I didn't assume it was a weed or something, as that durian also becomes a main character later down the line. At this point, I genuinely didn't know what we could plant, so I turned to Pebbles for guidance. He always knew the way and provided great wisdom for me, right? Well, it technically is a seed. This guy just does not have any seeds in his system. Pebbles was true to his name, I guess. Oh yeah, dogs. We did get attacked by these guys on day 7 too, but honestly I skipped that because it was frankly, not very interesting. I only kept this one in because Pebbles helped me and I thought it was adorable. So yeah, luckily for you guys, and I guess unluckily for me, hounds will only get more interesting for worse going forward. I swear, these guys have absolutely comedic timing. At the end of the day, me and Pebbles sit in awe watching our lovely junk farm grow very unhappy plants. On day 15, my brain finally turned on because I realized we just pretty much wasted the last few days. Today was going to be a day of progress. Now, we have to talk about growth formula. It's an absolutely diabolical nutrient that can only be acquired from spoiled fish. Yikes. Well, I'm not good at ocean fishing, so what's the next best thing? Freshwater fish. That I know. So we head out and grab some silk to make some rods, and then, at home, it hits me. Eggplants. You see, eggplants only need manure, so we could absolutely brute force our way into some giants. Thinking I was a 200 IQ genius, in the night I quickly plant them up and get to poop smearing. If only I had just thought a little longer, maybe I would have realized that eggplants are the exact same nutrient profile as potato, and would have worked perfectly with some toma roots. Yeah, I'm not the brightest, I'll admit, but hey, my idea still would work, albeit wastefully, quite literally. Day 16 was here and I was clearly hearing the voices, but that didn't matter, we had fish to catch. Until I realized daytime is an awful time to freshwater fish because of frogs. So we retreat to the farm and oh my goodness, we are rich. 8 giant potatoes and 8 giant tomatoes were grown, adding a total of 16 giants to the 13 we had already grown, giving us 29 total giants. Really good progress, but far from the end. In the dusk, I decide to fish for some more growth formula before engaging in the great harvest to end the day. Day 17 was here and it brought with it 4 more giants in the form of toma roots, giving us 33 giants in total. Man, we are breezing towards this giant goal. Being a farmer by day and a fisher by night, Wilson was truly living every man's dream. I did have to smear poop on my eggplants tonight to keep them happy though. Day 18 started with, you guessed it, more farming. We needed more giants, so we set up yet another potato-tomato farm. But our junk farm also gave us some interesting crops, a durian and a pomegranate. But there was a looming and terrifying issue, sanity. You see, with no way to keep it up, it's a matter of time before I'm juggling farming and fighting off my own personal demons. So we would need to figure out a solution. Luckily, I had mapped a bee biome on my way to this site, so we head up there under the cover of darkness and collect ourselves some flowers. We also went and collected some reeds from the swamp because it was at this point that I realized a bird cage would be very helpful. So we decided to start preparing for one. Day 19 starts with reed gathering, then silk gathering, or attempted silk gathering. I swear, Clay has some advanced spider loot AI that can tell what you need most and purposely makes them drop what you don't need. When I need monster meat, I'm showered in silk and glands, and when I need silk, it's a monster meat fest. I don't know, man, it's just weird. After that, we finally start heading home and realize that the leaves on the trees were almost all gone. Well, that means winter was almost here, which meant many crops would become ungiantable until spring, and that is pretty yucky. But you know what wasn't yucky? The 4 giant eggplants that grew while we were away. This not only gave us the required giant eggplant, but added 4 more giants to our total, leaving us with 37 giants in total. We would be starting winter pretty strong, thankfully. We end the night by throwing one of our eggplants in its eternal prison and a little bit of farming. Day 20 started with the chilly knowledge that winter was almost among us, and with it, a new set of challenges and crops to be grown. We were far too late to grow any more autumn crops, so today was pretty much spent gathering resources and tending to the crops we did have. We also stocked up on some wild seeds because they would no longer spawn during winter, so having them to keep our junk farm going would be excellent. Remember, the more seeds, the better. Also, we got ourselves a bird cage and set a trap for our future pet bird. Day 21 marked the beginning of winter, and the beginning of our hopefully lifelong friendship with our new crow, who I will be naming Hugo. While we do some farming and general winter prep, now is a good time to talk about what crops we could go for in this season. You see, winter is a very limited growing season. We can only get giant potatoes, pumpkins, carrots, garlic, and asparagus this season. Pumpkins being the most important because this was actually the last season for giant pumpkins. If we didn't get one in the next 15 days, this challenge was over. Luckily, today actually was pretty good for us. We managed to grow 2 giant tomatoes. If you're wondering how, it's because we planted them early enough so they accumulated only 1 seasonal stress point, and a whopping 11 giant potatoes. That's 13 more giants to add to the counter, giving us 50 whole giants. Halfway there, and not bad at all. Day 22 was a day of big brain activities. First, I feed our asparagus to Hugo to acquire some more asparagus seeds. And then I decide it's time to modernize our farming habits. So far, we have been manually talking to our crops to keep them happy. But you don't have to. There's actually many ways to tend to multiple crops at once, or even automate the system. But for now, our goal was to get the phonograph, which we spent pretty much all day doing. But in the end, it would prove very useful and make this challenge just a little more bearable. Day 23 was here, and I quite literally spent the entire day doing math. If I wanted to beat this challenge, I would need to learn good crop rotations. It was inevitable. So I sat there, staring at my seeds and the open wiki screen that showed me the nutrient values, trying to put 2 and 2 together to figure out what I was going to do. That's when it hit me. If I combined 1 pumpkin and 2 asparagus, I can just feed it raw, and that would give me 3 very happy plants, which meant enough seeds for giants. Okay, we were in business yet again. I was still using the far inferior brute force method, but hey, I was a little baby farmer back then. At the end of the day, I went on an adventure to harvest juicy berries to convert to rot to feed our farm. Day 24 was here, and we were pretty much playing the waiting game at this point, so today was spent cleaning up around the base and clearing some trees. Yup. Day 25 was here, and I saw a plant I had never seen before. A little part of me was very suspicious, however. I don't really garden or do any of that in real life, but this is the most weed-looking plant I have ever seen. In the end, I decided to dig it up, hoping that it was a weed, and luckily I was correct. It was actually a tillweed. So, yeah, good job, past me. We ended the day chopping down more trees since we're, still playing the waiting game. Day 26 was equally as boring. However, we did make a few more scales, so that's cool, I guess. Day 27 made me heavily disappointed in my junk farm. Not a single new crop grew today. It was all just carrots, potatoes, corn, and eggplants. so that was not very great. However, today our asparagus and pumpkin grew, and they were incredibly happy indeed. So this meant we could finally get to planting, and hopefully obtaining some new giants. I decided to plant pumpkins, carrots, and asparagus in separate plots, because I was going to brute force my way through all three of these crops. Carrots need growth formula, which, while annoying, we had a decent amount of thanks to our fishing journey. Pumpkins needed the same, and finally asparagus was hungry for compost, which was certainly feasible. Yes, if I had more than 2 brain cells, I probably could have come up with a way to companion plant these crops, but I had the resources and really didn't feel like doing mental gymnastics, so here we are. Inefficient, yes, but hey, if we get things done, then there's no shame in that. Day 28 was pretty boring. Some hounds jumped me while I wasn't prepared, but it wasn't anything the nearby beefs couldn't help me with. Then we got home and tended to our crops. Oh boy, another waiting game. Day 29 was a continuation of the waiting game. We did some resource collecting, but nothing very noteworthy happened today. What makes winters suck during this challenge is crops need sunlight to grow, so crops grow extra slow during the season, without a star caller's staff, which I'm not a good ruins rusher, so that's why I'm not down there right now. Day 30 would have been a boring day, but those of you who have made it this far in a playthrough know why it wasn't. And that is because of Deerclops. Now, Deerclops would be an issue. On one hand, she can absolutely wreck our base and leave us with nothing. But on the other hand, if I fight her, we would lose tons of sanity. And with no way to deal with sanity, this battle was going to be a lose-lose situation. So, I came up with a plan, and that was to weasel our way out. Oh, she's here. Let's go. Alright, we did it. That should be a wrap. We're free. We're free! We did it, everybody! We weaseled! We successfully weaseled! I repeat, okay, we need to get home now. We need to get home and take care of our crops now. With Deerclops gone, winter was almost over. We absolutely needed these pumpkins to be giants, or we can kiss that farming crown goodbye. Day 31 was here, and it would be the day of reckoning. Will our pumpkins be giants? Well, today we would find out. Everybody, do we win, or do we lose? If we get all 4 small pumpkins, we've lost, and we have to accept that. I mean, we'll keep going with the challenge. I'll keep trying to get as many giants as I can, but we'll have to accept that we have lost. Because I don't believe there is a way to get a giant on its off season. I don't think there is a way. We did it. We did it. That's right, not 1, not 2, but 3 giants all in one day. The pumpkin, carrot, and asparagus giants were all officially completed. But not only that, we also had a total of 4 giant pumpkins, 1 giant carrot, and 1 giant asparagus, giving us 6 more giants, giving us a new giant count of 56. Not bad, but remember, in a few days we will be halfway done with this challenge, so we really should pick up the pace here. Day 32 was here, and I was feeling really good, because we just got pumpkins done, and now we don't have to worry as much. Wilson, however, was feeling a little insane, so I went up to the beef field to collect as many flowers as possible, and luckily it was enough to fill our sanity completely. I also realized that we had a lot of petals, so naturally the best way to utilize those would be...
The poop machine!
On day 33, that is. Speaking of days, I realized that there was no more real need to grow any crops now. We had enough food to last us through the winter, so yeah, the next few days will go by pretty fast, since we didn't do much. But hey, those other 3 asparagus also turned giant, so that's 3 more giants, leaving us with 59 total giants for the end of winter. Not bad. Day 34 was spent expanding the farm and trading with Pebble, who gave us nothing really too interesting. Day 35, the last day of winter, which was spent preparing for the incredibly busy spring we had ahead of us by tilling as much as possible. It's hard work, especially without any mods, but we get the job done. Remember, we still had 7 unique giants to go, which meant we truly were at a proper halfway point. Day 36 marked the start of spring, and we had big plans for spring. First, I wanted to make a 4x4 crop field. Why? Well, finally I was starting to use math, and wanted to make sure to get some happy crops growing in a nutrient-positive environment. My first goal would be garlic. Now, garlic is a very hungry plant, requiring a massive 8 compost per growth stage. Not only this, but we also have to feed 4 of them for the family bonus. This is where I get a brilliant idea that has already been done before, but I just learned it, so hey, come on, it's pretty cool. You see, crops need to be near each other for the family bonus, but they don't have to be in the exact same plot. Let me explain. If I were to say put a garlic in each corner of a plot, but near each other, they would still benefit from the family bonus, but would take nutrients only from their specific plot. Utilizing this knowledge, we can easily make a nutrient-positive giant garlic farm using potatoes and carrots, with 2 potatoes per plot providing 4 compost, 4 growth formula, and taking 8 manure, and 2 carrots providing 4 compost, 4 manure, and taking 8 growth formula. We create a farm plot that reaches total equilibrium. So in theory, this layout should create some giant garlic for us. It should also work for durian, which has the same nutrient profile as garlic. But I wanted to test it with the garlic first before risking the much rarer durian. Unfortunately, this setup cost us the entirety of day 36 and half of day 37. For what remained of day 37, we pretty much just farmed. However, we had a hound attack that would rudely take us out of our house until morning. Day 38 started with that same very hound attack that we repelled with ease. Then we went home and used our gramophone to tend to our crops before spending the rest of the day being a good farmer. Rain would be a blessing in spring. It lowers the amount of water we need to give crops by a significant amount. Oh yeah, we also shaved for sanity. I guess that's another benefit to being a Wilson main. Day 39 was probably one of our most boring days. We traded some monster meat to Hugo for eggs, then those eggs to the Pig King for gold. After that, we tended to the crops and huddled around our charged lightning rod while I did more mental math trying to figure out what crop combos would work and what crop combos would be duds. Day 40 started with Pebbles giving us the gift of grass, and the Constant giving us the gift of giants. Those potatoes going giant were an amazing sign, as that meant that they were very happy, and that my math might have been proper and true. I immediately started preparing the durian to take the garlic spot after it was done, and before we knew it, not only was our giant garlic done, we also had 16 more giants to add to our total. That's 75 giants in total. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this challenge. For some reason though, the outer carrots refuse to become giants. I'm not actually 100% sure why, but yeah, if anybody knows why they did that, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. Speaking of that, you should totally leave a like while you're down there and subscribe if you aren't already. This challenge took me a very long time to finish. I mean, I've been working on it for like a month now, so yeah. Anyways, let's continue. We left the plants to sit overnight since I didn't want to carry the garlic through the dark. Day 41 started with me moving our amazing giant garlic to its permanent resting spot right next to our giant asparagus, before realizing we were under attack. A giant fruit fly. This was actually great for us. Not only is this boss an absolute pushover, but it drops the friendly fruit fly, which will automate our tending processes going forward. Oh man, things are really looking up now. Not only that, but we were rewarded with 24 more giants in the form of potatoes and tomatoes, bringing our total to 99 giants. Yeah, at least we know for sure that this objective would be completed. Also, we set up the exact same farm as the garlic farm, except this time we used 4 durian in the center in the hopes of acquiring the elusive giant durian, which honestly was the crop I thought would give us the most trouble in this challenge, since it's the only crop in the game with only one proper growing season, which is spring. We end the day doing what we do best, farming. I really gotta say, I started getting pretty good at this by now. Day 42 was here, and finally I had a massive brain blast. Watermelon can be used to easily grow onion. You see, 1 onion and 2 watermelon plants in the same tile would cancel themselves out and create a nutrient-positive environment. This would also work for pomegranate. Boom! Not only can we shoot for some giant watermelons, we can also get some giant onions and pomegranates as well. First we start with the onions. Unfortunately we don't have 4 onion seeds, so we must make do with really happy onions until we can get enough. We're doing so well for ourselves that I even expand the farm a little bit before doing some more thinking by our charged lightning rod to end the day. Day 43 was pretty much just a filler day. We did get a pepper plant in our junk farm though, which would prove to be amazing come summer when its season was here. Everything seemed like it was going great, until our fruit fly turned out to be dead. Yeah, Pebbles had betrayed us and killed our beloved fruit fly. I was devastated at this point. Not only did this mean I could no longer leave base whenever I wanted, but we couldn't let Pebbles get away with this transgression. On day 44, I decide to evict Pebbles. Don't worry, Pebbles wasn't harmed. I simply destroyed his den and it would regenerate somewhere else. It's sad, but look, if Pebbles wanted to live on the farm, then he really should have thought about the consequences of ruining my plants. Now, with 2 pets gone, it was me and Hugo against the world here. And, if you want to count them, my many, many happy crops. Since I could no longer go too far from the base, I decided to spend the day doing some cleanup. Day 45 was the day of durian. Our garlic plot worked excellently, and with that, we not only got ourselves a giant durian, we also reached 100 total giants. One goal complete. But stick around to the end to see how many giants we can rack up by the end. We also surprisingly got ourselves a giant watermelon, and that was quick. I didn't even have a scale to put it on, but still, watermelon also obtained. Now we can set up a proper giant onion farm, which looks a little bit like this. 4 onions and 8 watermelons in a row of 4. In theory, this should give us 12 giants, but only time could answer that. I ended the day by heading out to grab some grass, since we would need a lot more to build the remaining scales that we needed. Day 46 started where we left off, gathering grass. But there was something looming over my mind. That was the elusive dragon fruit. You see, dragon fruit is exceptionally rare, and as such, we haven't gotten any in our junk farm at all. Sure, I could try to find Lunar Island and get a dragon fruit from the salamanders, but that would require sailing, something that would put me away from home, away from my farm, my food source, my home. We absolutely needed to get a dragon fruit from our junk farm soon, or this challenge could be over. Oh, wait, there's one right there. Well, alright, cool I guess. This means we officially have the seeds of all the plants we still need to giantify. But the question is, can we do it? Spring is almost over and we have just 4 plants left. Onion, pomegranate, dragon fruit, and pepper. Either way, that was a future problem. For now, we house our giant watermelon and tend to our farm for the rest of the day. Day 47 was here and we were nearing the home stretch. Summer was almost on our doorstep and we had to start thinking quickly if we wanted to win this. Luckily, we had all day to be productive, right? Well, yeah, we got a frog rain today. If any of you have experienced these, they pretty much take your priority for the entire day. So, yeah, most of the day was spent dealing with this tragedy. On the bright side, we did manage to harvest a pepper, dragon fruit, and pomegranate from our junk farm, 3 plants that we would need for giants, and late in the night, we plant a simple 3x3 of watermelon and pomegranate. We wouldn't get a giant pomegranate this way, but we would get the seeds we need for the giants. Day 48 was a day that I decided to choose simple math over using my brain yet again. You see, I needed more dragon fruit seeds. Dragon fruit requires a massive amount of manure, so I decided to simply use my massive crap ton of manure to brute force our way to getting the required seeds. If only I just looked at the toma root nutrient profile, I would have realized that, much like the watermelon and onion combo, 2 toma roots would cancel out 1 dragon fruit. Thankfully, I do learn this later, but it's painful to watch me put this much effort into getting 3 happy dragon fruits. Oh yeah, we also got ourselves a giant onion later in the night, so there we go. For some reason though, much like the carrots, we only got 2 giant onions. Why? I have no clue, but hey, we only needed 1, so I'm not complaining. Day 49 started with us throwing our giant onion on its throne, and then we spent the day farming and gathering grass and flowers for sanity. Nothing too interesting, but it was progress. The only notes I have for day 50 was that we got some gold and did some farming. So, another filler day while we wait for these crops to grow. Day 51 started immediately with some giant watermelons and some very, very happy pomegranates, which I kept calling passion fruits for some reason. Either way, we now had the means to ensure that we get a giant pomegranate, which is amazing. Our dragon fruit were looking pretty happy as well, and we ended the day by tending to our crops. Day 52 was here, and with it brought many ripe, happy dragon fruits. Luckily, this is when my brain turned on and I realized that toma roots are an amazing pair to the dragon fruit, so we plant them like this. I also realized that the pepper plant would also work in place of the dragon fruit as it has the exact same nutrient profile. So this challenge should be easy, right? Well, we still need patience, and lots of it because we were about to enter the waiting game. I decided to make myself useful and spend the next few days decorating while we wait for our giants. Day 55 was here and we didn't get giant pomegranates? How? I did everything right and the math was correct. I attributed it to being either a missed care cycle or bad soil, and tried again. Today wasn't a full dud, however, as we did manage to get a giant dragon fruit. That leaves us with only 2 giants left, which made me relax a little bit. Day 56 brought summer to us, and this means we officially had 15 days to make 2 giants. That sounds pretty easy, right? Well, the problem is we only had 3 pepper seeds, so first we need some happy peppers. Then we can move into giant territory. Either way, we were back in the waiting game, so it was back to decorating for me. Luckily, summer is incredibly easy to survive and even thrive in Don't Starve Together, thanks to the watering can. So we were able to decorate quite effectively. Day 59 marked the day of the giant pomegranate. This was amazing. Now we were on the home stretch, getting ourselves a giant pepper. Unfortunately, this would require a lot of patience on my end. I filled the boredom by doing even more decorating in preparation to claim this challenge completed. Near the end of day 63, a giant chili plant was born. This meant the challenge was officially complete. I had made one of every giant crop before the end of our first year. Not only that, but I had grown a grand total of 178 giants. All of this while relying on a crop-only diet, for after my first harvest, of course. Pretty cool, right? So would I say that I became the best farmer in all of Don't Starve Together? Absolutely not. This run could be made far faster by a proper ruins rusher thanks to how the Starcaller staff causes crops to grow faster, or a good explorer thanks to dragon fruit being found on the lunar island. But would I call myself a much better farmer than when I started? For sure. Throughout this challenge, I had to use a lot of mental math and learn some great and powerful combos like Toma Root and Dragon Fruit, which is actually an insanely powerful combo for sanity and healing if you utilize a crockpot. And I would say I learned a lot from this experience. And because I love being as transparent as possible, I want to make sure you all have proof that I did this challenge. I started a second channel called Polarlotus 2, which will house the entirety of this challenge, but unedited. If you love listening to me ramble while playing Don't Starve without fancy edits or overlays like on my streams, or just want to verify my challenge runs, that channel will hold all of that. I'm also going to use it as a dumping grounds for videos that don't quite belong on my main channel, so yeah, shameless plug. Make sure you go follow it if you are interested. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this massive journey. This video took me about a month to process with all the gameplay, scripting, editing, and whatnot. So it would really help if you could show your support by leaving a like, subscribing if you aren't already, and if you're feeling really generous, you can join these amazing people on screen now by becoming a member today. This has been Polarlotus, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.